Gemma woke to darkness and the weight of someone's stare. Her eyes adjusted slowly, finding Shindojin at the foot of his bed. Their bed now apparently, backlit by Seoul's glittering skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. He stood perfectly still in expensive slacks and an unbuttoned dress shirt, tattoos snaking up his forearms in the dim light. The dragon on his chest peeked through white fabric, seeming to breathe with his measured inhales. Something was wrong. His jaw was locked tight, and he held his phone like a weapon. Dojin. Her voice came out rough with sleep. She sat up carefully, one hand instinctively moving to the small swell of her belly beneath his t-shirt. 4 months pregnant, and still not used to waking up in a penthouse that felt more like a gilded cage. What time is it? Who the heck is Joseph? The question landed like a slap. Gemma blinked, her brain still foggy. What? Don't. He took a step closer, and she saw it then. The barely leashed fury in his dark eyes, the muscle ticking in his jaw, the white-knuckle grip on his phone. Don't play games with me, Gemma. Not about this. Her heart kicked against her ribs. I don't know what you're. He tapped his screen. Her own voice filled the room, sleep soft and tender. Joseph, please. I just want to hold you. The blood drained from Gemma's face. You recorded me sleeping? She threw off the covers, struggling to her feet despite the exhaustion that came with growing a whole human. You bugged your own bedroom. Answer the fucking question. His voice dropped to something deadly quiet, the tone he probably used before pulling a trigger. Who is he? Because here's the thing about loving a monster. You never quite know when he'll decide you've betrayed him. Gemma's hands shook as she backed up a step, her spine hitting the cold glass window. Outside, Seoul glittered like scattered diamonds, millions of people sleeping peacefully while she stood trapped 40 stories up with a man who looked ready to commit murder. I can't believe you, she whispered. You said his name like. Dojin's control cracked just slightly. He moved closer, eating up the space between them with predatory grace. Not touching her, never rough with her, but filling the air with something combustible. You said it like you wanted him. Like you were begging him. The jealousy in his voice did something to her she hated. Made her breath catch. Made heat pool low in her belly despite everything. Despite the insanity of this moment. This is insane. He's insane. But what did that make her? The woman carrying his child, standing in his home. Her body responding to his possessiveness like she was wired wrong? How long have you been recording me? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. That's not an answer, Gemma. Neither is stalking your. She stopped herself. What was she to him? His prisoner? His obsession? The mother of his unborn child who'd been stupid enough to come back to Seoul, because she couldn't stop loving him even when she should? Dojin's hand shot out, catching her chin, gentle but immovable. He tilted her face up, forcing her to meet eyes that had gone completely black. I asked you a question. I'm going to ask one more time, and Gemma, his thumb brushed her bottom lip. I really need you to tell me the truth. Because if there's another man, if you're thinking about someone else while you're carrying my child. He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. She could feel his heart racing where his chest nearly touched hers. Could smell his cologne mixed with something sharper. Rage, fear, whatever lived inside men like Shindojin when they thought they were losing control. What would you do? The question escaped before she could stop it. If there was someone else. Wrong thing to say. His other hand flattened against the window beside her head, caging her in. You really want to know? Dojin. I'd find him. His voice went soft, almost conversational. I'd make sure he understood exactly what he tried to take from me. And then I'd make sure you never said another man's name again. Ever. A smart woman would have been terrified. Gemma's pulse hammered in her throat, and she watched his eyes track the movement like a predator scenting blood. You're threatening me? No, Sarang. I'm promising you. He leaned in close enough that his lips brushed her ear. You're mine, Gemma Loran. Mine to protect, mine to. He stopped himself, jaw clenching. Just mine. And I don't share. She should tell him the truth. Should end this before his jealousy spiraled into something darker. But part of her, the part that had fallen for a criminal, that had let him consume her life, that craved his obsession even when it suffocated her. That part wanted to see how far he'd go. And if I don't tell you, she whispered. Dojin pulled back just enough to look at her. Really look at her. His hand slid from her chin to her throat, not squeezing, just resting there, feeling her racing pulse beneath his palm. Then I guess we're about to find out exactly how patient I'm not. Subscribe now because the truth about Joseph is about to come out, and Dojin's reaction is not what you'd expect. Dojin's thumb hovered over a contact name, and Gemma's blood ran cold when she read it. Minsuk tracker. Don't. Her voice came out strangled. Give me a reason not to. His eyes were black, empty. One reason, Gemma, why I shouldn't have every man you've ever known investigated by morning. Because you're insane. Try again. He raised the phone to his ear. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She'd pushed too far, and now she was watching him actually do it. Shin Dojin was about to unleash his entire organization to hunt down a ghost, and innocent people would get caught in the crossfire. Dojin, please. The call connected. She heard a male voice answer in Korean, groggy and confused. I need a full background check, Dojin said, his eyes never leaving hers. Name Joseph. Connected to Gemma Loran, Miami. I want every man she's ever spoken to, every relationship, every. Stop. Gemma lunged for the phone, but he caught her wrist mid-reach, pulling her against his chest. His heart hammered against her palm. He wasn't as controlled as he looked. Just stop. Please. I'll tell you everything, just hang up. He held her there, both of them breathing hard. She felt the exact moment his control started fracturing. The tremor in his hand. The way his jaw clenched so tight she heard his teeth grind. You'll tell me. His voice was barely above a whisper. No more games, Gemma. I'm not. She stopped, swallowed the anger. Just hang up. I'll explain everything. For 3 agonizing seconds he didn't move. Then, cancel that. I'll call you back. He ended the call but didn't release her. Start talking. But looking at him now, at this beautiful, dangerous man who'd just proven he'd burn the world down over a name whispered in sleep, Gemma realized he didn't understand. He couldn't possibly understand how they'd gotten here. Why she'd come back to Seoul pregnant and terrified. Because Shin Dojin thought he'd chosen her. He had no idea it had been mutual destruction from the very first moment. You want to know about Joseph? She pulled free, wrapped her arms around herself. Then you need to understand that I didn't come to Seoul looking for you. For this. She gestured at the space between them. I came here to escape and you. Her voice cracked. You ruined everything, she whispered. From the second you looked at me. Something shifted in his expression. The rage was still there, but underneath it, hunger. When? His voice had gone dangerously soft. When did I look at you? 6 months earlier. The head nurse, Mrs. Kim, looked at Gemma like she was sending a lamb to slaughter. You're sure you want this assignment? The older woman's English was clipped. The VIP wing is different. Special patients. Special rules. Gemma adjusted her new scrubs, navy blue instead of the standard mint green, and tried to project confidence she didn't feel. First day in Seoul. First day trying to convince herself that running halfway across the world was a normal response to a bad breakup. I'm sure, she said, even though she wasn't. Mrs. Kim's expression said your funeral, but she handed over a tablet with patient charts. Room 1207. Post-surgical monitoring. His visitors can be intense. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, page security immediately. Intense how? You'll see. Mrs. Kim walked away. The VIP wing occupied the entire 12th floor, quieter and more isolated with each step. The few nurses she passed avoided eye contact like they knew something she didn't. Her phone buzzed. Nadine, first day. Met any hot doctors yet? Gemma smiled despite her nerves. It's 6 a.m., and I'm already regretting every life choice. She didn't know how right she was. The security outside room 1207 stopped her cold. 2 men in expensive black suits flanked the door like they were guarding Fort Knox. Built like they'd been designed to hurt people, with earpieces and dead-eyed stares. One stepped forward, blocking her path. Identification. Gemma fumbled for her badge. I'm the assigned nurse for. She's cleared. The voice from inside was deep, authoritative, doing something to her nervous system she didn't have time to analyze. Let her in. The guard stepped aside. Gemma pushed through and immediately understood Mrs. Kim's warning. The patient wasn't alone. 4 more men in suits occupied the room, all turning to assess her like a potential threat. But it was the man at the window who made her forget to breathe. He turned and Gemma's heart stopped. Beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Sharp jawline. Dark eyes that saw straight through her. Tattoos snaking up his forearms in intricate dragon patterns. White dress shirt rolled to his elbows, hands in the pockets of perfectly tailored slacks. Their eyes met, and the room temperature spiked. "You're new." His English was perfect. Not a question, an observation. Her voice came out breathy. She cleared her throat. "Nurse Laurent. I'm here to check on the patient." Shin Dojin. He didn't offer his hand, just watched her with unsettling intensity. "That's my brother, Shin Miho. I'll need to stay while you work." Not a request. Hospital policy allows one visitor at a time during medical care. Hospital policy doesn't apply here. His voice was casual, like he'd just commented on the weather. The arrogance should have annoyed her. Instead, it made heat pool low in her belly despite every rational thought screaming this man was dangerous. "Then hospital policy and I are going to have a problem," she heard herself say. "Everyone out. Now." Dead silence. One of the suited men reached inside his jacket, definitely for a weapon, before Shin Dojin raised one hand, stopping him without looking. His eyes stayed locked on Gemma's. Then he smiled. Really smiled. And Gemma knew she was in serious trouble. "Out," Dojin said to his men. "All of you." "Hyungnim," one started. "Now." The room cleared in seconds, leaving just Gemma and Shin Dojin in a space that suddenly felt too small. "You too," Gemma said. "No." He leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. The movement made his tattoos shift. "I don't think so." "Then I'll call security." "You could try." His smile widened. "But they won't come. Not to this floor. Not for me. And if you leave without checking on my brother, I'll make sure you're reassigned. Permanently." The threat was delivered so casually it took a moment to process. Then anger replaced fear. "Who the hell do you think you are? I own half this hospital, Nurse Laurent. The other half is owned by people who owe me favors." He pushed off the wall, suddenly close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive woodsy dark. "So when I say I'm staying, I'm staying. When I say you're not leaving this wing." His eyes dropped to her lips, then back up. "You're not leaving." Gemma's breath caught. From the bed, Miho laughed. "Young, you're scaring her." "No." Dojin's voice went soft, eyes still locked on Gemma's. "I don't think I am." And he was right. She should have been running for the exit, booking the first flight back to Miami. But standing there, trapped between Shin Dojin and the wall, feeling his eyes trace her face like he was memorizing every detail, Gemma felt a lot of things. Fear wasn't one of them. For a moment that stretched too long, they just stared at each other. Gemma should have moved. Should have walked to the patient's bedside. Done her job, pretended Shin Dojin wasn't standing there radiating danger, and expensive cologne like it was a weapon. Instead, she found herself saying, "You can't threaten hospital staff." "I just did." He tilted his head slightly, studying her. "What are you going to do about it?" From the bed, Miho made a sound that might have been a laugh or a groan. "Can you two do this after someone checks my vitals? I'd like to know if I'm dying." "You're not dying," Dojin said without looking away from Gemma. "You got shot in the shoulder. Stop being dramatic." "Shot. Right. Because this was completely normal." Gemma forced herself to break eye contact, moving to Miho's bedside with hands that weren't quite steady. She pulled up his chart on the tablet, scanned the post-op notes. Gunshot wound, surgery successful, patient stable but requiring monitoring for infection. This was insane. She should walk out right now, request a transfer, maybe call the U.S. Embassy for good measure. But her hands were already reaching for Miho's wrist to check his pulse, her body moving on autopilot while her brain screamed warnings. "Who shot you?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Someone who's not breathing anymore," Miho said cheerfully. His English was good too, though more accented than his brother's. "Don't worry, Seongsingnam. Ihil fast." Gemma looked at him, really looked. He was younger than Dojin, maybe early 30s, with similar sharp features but a softer edge. The kind of face that probably charmed people right before he did something terrible to them. "That's not how bullet wounds work," she muttered. "She's got jokes," Miho said, glancing past her to where Dojin still stood. "Hyung, I like her. Can we keep her?" "Shut up, Miho." But there was something in Dojin's voice, possessiveness, like his brother had just suggested keeping something that was already claimed. And that should have been Gemma's cue to run. She worked efficiently instead, checking vitals, examining the surgical site, making notes. The whole time, She felt Dojin's eyes on her. Not threatening, exactly. Just watching. Learning her movements, her habits, filing away information. It made her hyper-aware of every breath, every gesture, every time she tucked a stray curl behind her ear. Your surgical site looks clean, she said finally, stepping back. No signs of infection. The doctor will want to see you again tomorrow, but for now you're stable. What's your story? Dojin's question cut through her professional distance. Gemma blinked. Excuse me. You're American. Caribbean accent. Haitian? Jamaican. He moved closer, and she fought the urge to back up. Young, clearly skilled if they assigned you to this wing. No ring, but there's a tan line on your left hand like you removed one recently. Her stomach dropped. She'd taken off Michael's engagement ring 3 months ago, but apparently the evidence still lingered. That's none of your business. Probably not, he agreed, still moving closer. But I'm making it my business anyway. Why? She held her ground even though he was close enough now that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. You don't even know me. Not yet. His voice dropped lower, intimate. But I'm going to. 6 months is a long time, Nurse Laurent. Long enough to learn everything about you. The certainty in his voice sent chills down her spine. I have other patients, she said, moving toward the door. His hand shot out, catching the door frame and blocking her exit. Not touching her, but trapping her all the same. No, you don't. I checked the assignment roster this morning. You're dedicated to this wing. Which means, he leaned in, voice going dangerously soft. You're mine for the next 6 months. Gemma's breath caught. I'm not yours. I don't belong to anyone. Something flickered in his eyes. Interest, maybe even approval. Good. I don't want someone who's already broken in. I want. He stopped himself, jaw tightening. What time does your shift end? Why would I tell you that? Because I'm taking you to dinner. Not a question. A statement of fact. The audacity made her laugh, sharp, disbelieving. You're actually insane. Probably. He pulled out his phone, typed something. 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up from the staff entrance. I'm not having dinner with you. Yes, you are. He pocketed his phone, and his free hand came up. She thought he was going to touch her face, but instead he reached past her to fully open the door. His arm caged her in, his body close enough that she felt his heat. Because you're curious, Gemma. And you haven't been curious about anything in a long time. How did he know that? How could he possibly? I don't even know your last name, she said, hating how breathless she sounded. Shin Dojin, underboss of the Biko clan. He said it casually, like he was telling her his favorite color. And you're Gemma Laurent, 28, graduated from University of Miami nursing program, engaged until 3 months ago too. He paused, eyes scanning her face. Someone who clearly didn't deserve you. The blood drained from her face. How do you? I know everything. He stepped back finally, giving her space. 7 o'clock, Gemma. Don't make me come find you. She should have said no. Should have reported him, booked the first flight home. Instead, she walked out on shaking legs, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Gemma made it to the nurse's locker room before her hands started trembling. She sat on the bench, staring at nothing, trying to process what had just happened. Shin Dojin, underboss, criminal, whatever that meant, had basically announced he was claiming her. And instead of being terrified, instead of calling security or the police or literally anyone, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Where's something pretty? And Gemma? Don't even think about running. I'll find you. Her hands shook harder as she stared at the screen. How did he have her number? Another buzz. I can get anything I want. Including you. This was the moment. The moment she should have packed her bags, gone to the airport, fled back to Miami and admitted this whole soul adventure was a mistake. But Miami meant Michael. Meant her mother's disappointment, her sister's pity, everyone who'd said running away wouldn't fix her problems. And Shin Dojin, for all his danger and arrogance and clear criminal activity, looked at her like she was something worth chasing. When was the last time anyone had looked at her like that? Gemma closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and made a decision that would change everything. She texted back. If I say yes to dinner, you answer one question honestly. The response was immediate. Anything. Why me? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, because the second you told me to get out of that room, I knew you were different. Everyone else in this city is either afraid of me or wants something from me. You just wanted me gone. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Gemma stared at the message, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. This was insane. Completely insane. She typed, 7:15. And I'm wearing scrubs. Take it or leave it. I'll take whatever you give me, Sarang. For now. By 6:45 p.m., Gemma was standing in front of her closet in a black dress, questioning every life decision that had led her to this moment. She'd meant it about the scrubs, had fully intended to show up in her work uniform just to prove a point. That she wasn't some woman who'd dress up for a man who'd threatened her, stalked her, invaded her privacy. But then she'd gotten home, looked at her navy scrubs in the mirror, and thought about sitting across from Shin Dojin in a fancy restaurant wearing hospital-issue polyester. And she'd reach for the dress instead. It was simple black hitting just above her knees. Professional enough to claim this wasn't really a date. Fitted enough to admit she was lying to herself. This is a mistake, she told her reflection. Her reflection didn't argue. She pulled her natural curls into a low bun, applied minimal makeup, added the gold hoops her grandmother had given her. Checked the time. 7:10. Her phone buzzed downstairs. Black Mercedes. Don't keep me waiting. Bossy. Arrogant. Probably dangerous. And she was actually going. Gemma grabbed her purse, locked her apartment, and headed downstairs before she could talk herself out of it. The Mercedes was impossible to miss. Sleek, expensive, tinted windows that screamed criminal enterprise. The back door opened as she approached, and Dojin stepped out. He changed too. Dark slacks, black button-down that fit like it was custom-made, no tie. His hair was styled back, and in the evening light, his tattoos seemed even more prominent against his skin. When he saw her, he went completely still. You changed, he said, his voice rough. You noticed. I notice everything about you. His eyes tracked over her slowly, possessively. I thought you were wearing scrubs. I changed my mind. She lifted her chin. Problem. His smile was slow, devastating. Not even a little. Though I would have taken you in anything. Or nothing. Heat flooded her face. You're honest. He opened the door wider. And you're beautiful. Even when you're trying not to be. Gemma slid into the car, hyper-aware of his hand at her lower back. The way his fingers lingered just a moment too long. The interior was all leather and luxury. And when Dojin settled beside her, close enough that his thigh pressed against hers, she realized she'd made a terrible mistake. Not wearing the dress. Coming at all. Where are we going? She asked, trying to sound casual. Somewhere private. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining like he had every right. I don't share well, and I want you all to myself tonight. And Gemma Laurent, who'd spent 6 months planning her escape from one controlling man, let Shin Dojin drive her into the Seoul night without a single question about whether she'd make it back. The hanok was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Gemma followed Dojin through the entrance, his hand at the small of her back, not guiding, possessing. The traditional Korean architecture glowed softly in lantern light, all wooden beams and paper screens. Private. Isolated. The kind of place where no one would hear you scream. Relax, Dojin murmured, feeling her tension. If I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't waste time feeding you first. That's really not reassuring. His laugh was low, dark. No. But it's honest. Mrs. Choi appeared, bowing deeply to Dojin and speaking rapid Korean. Her eyes widened when she saw Gemma, surprise, maybe even concern, before she led them to a private dining room overlooking the courtyard. Low table, cushions, everything traditional and expensive. Gemma stood awkwardly in her black dress, feeling like prey that had walked willingly into a trap. Sit, Dojin said, already settling with predatory grace. She sat across from him, and for a moment they just looked at each other. You're scared, he observed, and he looked pleased about it. I'm cautious. You're terrified. He leaned forward. But you got in the car anyway. You're sitting here with me instead of running. That's not caution, Gemma. That's something else entirely. Her throat went dry. What is it then? Curiosity. Attraction. His eyes held hers. Inevitability. That's arrogant. That's honest. He reached across the table, caught her wrist before she could pull away. His thumb found her pulse point, pressed down gently. Your heart is racing. From fear or something else? Does it matter? To me? No. His smile was sharp. Either way, you're feeling something. And that's all I need. The food arrived, course after course that Gemma barely tasted. Mrs. Choi explained each dish, shooting Dojin looks that Gemma couldn't quite read. Warning, maybe. Or pity. When they were alone again, Dojin poured her tea with practiced ease. I should tell you something. What? I've been watching you for longer than you think. He said it casually, like discussing the weather. Before we met in that hospital room, I saw you 3 weeks earlier in the cafeteria. You were arguing with another nurse about patient care, and you were, he paused. Magnificent. Passionate. Real. Gemma's stomach dropped. You've been stalking me for 3 weeks? Researching. He didn't look apologetic. I needed to know everything about you before I made contact. Your background, your schedule, your habits. The coffee shop you go to every morning. The route you take home. How you bite your lip when you're concentrating. She couldn't breathe. That's insane. Probably. He took a sip of tea. But I wanted to make sure you were worth the obsession. And you are, Gemma. You're worth everything. She should have stood up. Should have walked out, called the police, gotten as far from this man as possible. But his eyes held hers, dark and intense and completely unapologetic, and she couldn't move. Tell me about Michael Chun, Dojin said. How do you? I know everything. He pulled out his phone, swiped through something, then turned it to show her. Michael Chun, 32, works at Goldman Sachs' Miami office. You were engaged for 2 years. He controlled your finances, your social media, your friendships. You broke it off 3 months ago after Dojin's jaw tightened. After he grabbed you hard enough to leave bruises during an argument about you wanting to take a job in another city. Gemma felt like she'd been punched. How could you possibly know that? I have resources. He pocketed his phone. And I use them to protect what's mine. The second I decided you were mine, I made sure I knew every threat to your safety. Every person who'd ever hurt you. Every reason you might run. I'm not yours. Yes, you are. No hesitation. No doubt. You've been mine since the moment you walked into that hospital room and told me to get out. You just don't know it yet. The certainty in his voice should have terrified her. It did something else entirely. You're insane, she whispered. Probably. He stood, moved around the table before she could react, pulled her to her feet. But I'm honest about what I want. And I want you, Gemma Laurent. Completely. Obsessively. In ways that would probably scare you if I said them out loud. His hands framed her face, and she couldn't look away. I've killed people, he said quietly. 17 men over 2 years because they touched what was mine. I would do it again without hesitation. I'm violent, possessive, controlling. I will know where you are at all times. I will eliminate any threat to you. I will never let you go, even if you beg me to. His thumb traced her bottom lip. And despite all of that, or maybe because of it, you want me too, don't you? She should say no. Should slap him, run, scream for help. Instead, she heard herself whisper, yes. His kiss was possessive from the start. No tentative exploration, no gentle testing. This was claiming, consuming. His hand fisted in her hair, angling her head back, and she gasped against his mouth. He used the opening to deepen the kiss, backing her against the wall, his body pressing against hers. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Come home with me, he said, voice rough. Not a request, Gemma. I'm done being patient. I'm done pretending I can let you walk away tonight. His eyes were black, feral. Come home with me, or I'll follow you to your apartment, and we'll end up in the same place anyway. At least at my place, you'll be comfortable. Every survival instinct screamed at her to run. But looking at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who just admitted to stalking her, to obsessing over her, to planning to never let her go, Gemma made a choice that would change everything. Okay, she whispered. His smile was triumphant, possessive. Good girl. The drive to his penthouse was silent and charged. Dojin's hand stayed high on her thigh, not moving, just there, a brand of ownership. Every time she shifted, his fingers tightened slightly, a reminder that she'd agreed to this. When they arrived, he didn't give her time to second-guess. The second the elevator doors closed, he had her against the wall, his mouth on hers, his hands everywhere. By the time they reached his floor, her dress was unzipped, his shirt was half unbuttoned, and Gemma had forgotten every reason this was a bad idea. He pulled her into his penthouse, and the city lights of Seoul spread out before them through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Last chance," he said, even as his hands slid the dress off her shoulders. "Tell me to stop, and I will. Tell me you want to leave, and I'll take you home. And if I stay, then you're mine." His voice went rough. "Completely. No more pretending this is casual. No more running. You stay, and you accept what I am. What we are." She should have been terrified by the ultimatum. Instead, she reached up and pulled him down to her. "Then I'm yours." What happened next was nothing gentle. Dojin took her apart with focused intensity, learning what made her gasp, what made her beg, what made her forget her own name. And when he finally moved inside her, when she cried out and felt him shudder against her, Gemma understood something fundamental. She hadn't chosen him. He'd chosen her. And now she belonged to him completely. After they lay tangled in his sheets, her body marked with evidence of his possession. Hickeys on her neck, fingerprint bruises on her hips, the pleasant ache between her thighs. "You're mine now," he murmured against her hair. "Say it." "I'm yours," she whispered, and felt him smile against her skin. "Good." His arm tightened around her waist. "Because I'm never letting you go, Gemma. Never." And lying there in the darkness, feeling owned and claimed and somehow safer than she'd ever felt, Gemma realized something terrifying. She didn't want him to. Gemma woke to sunlight, and the possessive weight of an arm locked around her waist. For a disorienting moment, she didn't know where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The restaurant, his confession, the ultimatum. The way he'd taken her apart in his bed like he owned every piece of her. She shifted slightly, and his arm tightened immediately. "Don't." Dojin's voice was rough with sleep but absolutely alert. "Don't even think about leaving. I know what you were thinking." He pulled her back against his chest. "You were thinking about running. About what you agreed to last night. About whether you made a mistake." "He wasn't wrong. Did I?" she asked quietly. "Make a mistake? That depends." His hand slid up her ribcage, possessive. "Can you handle belonging to someone completely? Because that's what you agreed to, Gemma. Not dating. Not a relationship. Belonging." She should have been terrified by the distinction. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means I know where you are at all times. It means you don't go anywhere without telling me. It means every man who looks at you wrong answers to me." His lips found the mark he'd left on her neck, kissed it deliberately. "It means you're mine in every way that matters." That sounds like control. It is control. He didn't apologize. But it's also protection. Safety. Knowing that nothing in this world will touch you, because you're under my protection. Gemma turned in his arms to face him. In the morning light, Dojin looked almost normal, except for his eyes. Those dark, intense eyes that saw everything and gave away nothing. "And what do I get in return?" she asked. His smile was slow, dangerous. "Everything. My loyalty, my protection, my obsession. I will burn down the world for you, Gemma. I will kill anyone who threatens you. I will give you anything you want, except freedom." That's not romantic. That's honest. He kissed her slow and deep. "I'm not going to lie and pretend I'm normal. Pretend I'll ever be the kind of man who lets you have space or privacy or independence. I won't. But I'll give you everything else." She should have run. Instead, she heard herself ask, "What if I need space?" "You won't." He said it with absolute certainty. "Because I'm going to make sure you need me as much as I need you. Starting now." What followed was proof of his promise. Hours in his bed where he systematically made her forget every reason this was wrong. By the time he finally let her up, Gemma's legs were shaking and her mind was completely blank except for one thought. She was completely, utterly addicted to him. 1 week later, Gemma's apartment sat mostly abandoned. She'd been to it twice in 7 days, both times with Dojin, both times just to grab more clothes. He'd made it clear he expected her at his penthouse. Not asked. Expected. And she'd complied. Now she stood at the nurse's station, trying to focus on patient charts while her phone buzzed constantly. "Dojin. What are you wearing?" "Dojin. I can see you from Miho's room. The scrubs do nothing to hide what's mine. Dojin, come here. Now." She shouldn't have smiled. Shouldn't have felt the heat pool low in her belly. But she did. "You look different," Mrs. Kim observed, appearing beside her. Happier. Or, the older woman's eyes narrowed. Claimed. Gemma's face heated. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Mrs. Kim switched to English, her voice dropping. The VIP wing is talking. About you and Shin Do-jin. About how you're living with him now. About the marks on your neck that your uniform doesn't quite hide. Gemma's hand went self-consciously to her collar. Be careful, Mrs. Kim said quietly. Men like him, they consume everything they touch. And they don't let go. I know what he is. Do you? Mrs. Kim's expression was sad. Or do you just know what he shows you? Before Gemma could respond, her phone buzzed again. Do-jin, I said now Gemma. Don't make me come get you. She went. Miho was sitting up in bed when she entered, looking significantly better. And Do-jin stood by the window, looking at her like a predator that had just spotted prey. Hyung, I need my vitals checked, not. Miho stopped, looking between them. Never mind. I'll just close my eyes. Get out, Do-jin said, not looking away from Gemma. It's my room. Out. Miho left, muttering in Korean about bossy brothers and inappropriate workplace behavior. The second the door closed, Do-jin crossed to her. You took too long, he said, backing her against the wall. I was working. You were making me wait. His hand slid into her hair, tilted her head back. I don't like waiting. Do-jin, we're in a hospital. I don't care. He kissed her, hard and possessive. You're mine. I can kiss you wherever I want. And he did, right there in his brother's hospital room, until she was gasping and clinging to him, and completely forgetting where they were. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were dark with satisfaction. Better. He straightened her scrubs, fixed her hair. Come to the penthouse after your shift. I'm cooking. You don't need to cook. I can just. I'm cooking, he repeated. Because I want to. Because taking care of you makes me. He stopped, jaw tightening. Just come home, Gemma. Home. His penthouse. Not hers anymore. Okay, she whispered. His smile was triumphant. Good girl. 2 weeks later, Gemma barely recognized herself anymore. She lived at Do-jin's penthouse now. All her clothes moved over, her toiletries in his bathroom, her coffee mug in his kitchen. He'd given her a drawer, then a closet, then half his space without her asking. But it came with conditions. He tracked her phone, knew her schedule better than she did, texted constantly when they were apart, had his driver pick her up from work every day. It's for your safety, he'd say whenever she questioned it. And maybe it was. But it was also control. She tried to go out with hospital friends once, drinks after a shift. He'd shown up 20 minutes in, all cold politeness and barely concealed possessiveness, and her friends had made excuses to leave early. You embarrass me, she'd said in the car ride home. I protected you. His hand was tight on her thigh. Those men were looking at you like I'm a person? Because I am Do-jin. I'm not just yours too. Yes, you are. He'd pulled the car over, turned to face her. You agreed to this. You said you were mine. That means I don't share. Not your time, not your attention, not the way men look at you. Nothing. They'd fought, the first real fight. She'd accused him of being controlling. He'd accused her of not understanding the dangers of his world. It had ended with him taking her in the back seat of the car, possessive and overwhelming, until she forgot what they were fighting about. That was the pattern now. Fight, fuck, forget. Over and over. And Gemma was starting to lose herself in it. You look tired, Nadine observed over video call one evening. Do-jin was at a meeting, and Gemma had stolen an hour alone. Are you sleeping? Not much. Is he? Nadine hesitated. Is he good to you? He's obsessed with me. Gemma laughed, but it came out hollow. Completely, overwhelmingly obsessed. I can't breathe without him knowing about it. That's not healthy, Gem. I know. She touched the bracelet Do-jin had given her, delicate gold with a tracking chip inside. He'd told her about it. Hadn't even tried to hide it. But I can't. I can't seem to stop wanting it anyway. You need to be careful. Men like that. I know. Gemma cut her off. Trust me, I know. After they hung up, Gemma sat in the quiet of Do-jin's penthouse and tried to remember who she'd been before him. She couldn't. 3 weeks into their relationship, Gemma was cataloging medication when her phone rang. Do-jin. Always Do-jin. I need you to come home early today, he said without preamble. I can't. I have a shift until. Gemma. His voice went hard. I'm not asking. Something's happened. I need you here. Now. Her stomach dropped. What happened? Just come home. I'll explain when you're here. He hung up before she could argue. Gemma told Mrs. Kim she had a family emergency and left, her heart pounding the entire drive to his penthouse. When she arrived, the space was full of his men, armed, tense, speaking rapid Korean. Dojin stood by the windows, and when he turned, she saw something she'd never seen before. Fear. What's going on? She asked. He crossed to her immediately, pulled her into his arms. There's been a development. With the park crew. They're escalating. What does that mean? It means war. His hand cupped the back of her head. It means things are going to get dangerous. And I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Dojin. Can you trust me? He repeated, more urgent. Yes, she whispered, even though she wasn't sure it was true. Good. He pulled back, his hands framing her face. Because I need you to stay here for a few days. Inside. Safe. While I handle this. You're locking me in? I'm protecting you. His eyes were intense, desperate. They know about you, Gemma. They know you matter to me. And that makes you a target. So yes, I'm keeping you here where nothing can touch you. For how long? As long as it takes. He kissed her forehead. I am sorry. I know this isn't. I know you'll hate this. But I can't lose you. I won't. And Gemma realized with stunning clarity that she wasn't just in love with a criminal. She was a prisoner in a penthouse, owned by a man who would rather lock her away than risk losing her. She should have fought. Should have demanded her freedom. But when Dojin looked at her like she was the only thing keeping him sane, she just nodded. Okay, I'll stay. His relief was palpable. Thank you. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression went cold. I have to go. Miho. What about Miho? They got to him. Dojin was already moving, grabbing his jacket. He's at the hospital. Beaten. I need to. I'm coming with you. No. He's my patient, Dojin. And if he's hurt, he needs medical. No. He grabbed her shoulders. You stay here. Where you're safe. I can't. If something happened to you. Nothing will happen to me if I'm with you. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Let me help. Please. She saw the war in his eyes, the need to protect her versus the need for her medical skills. You stay by my side, he said finally. You don't leave my sight. Understand. I understand. And Gemma, his voice dropped. What you're about to see, what I'm about to do, there's no coming back from it. Once you see this part of me, you can't unsee it. I know. She didn't. Not really. But she got in the car anyway. The hospital was chaos when they arrived. Dojin's men were everywhere, guarding exits, stationed outside Miho's room, trying to look inconspicuous and failing completely. Gemma followed Dojin through the hallways, his hand locked around her wrist like he was afraid she'd disappear. When they entered room 1207, Gemma's medical training kicked in immediately. Miho was conscious but barely. His face was a mess of bruises and blood, one eye swollen completely shut. His breathing was labored, broken ribs probably. The monitors showed elevated heart rate, blood pressure dangerously high. Get Dr. Yoon, Gemma said, moving to the bed. And I need. Already here. Dr. Yoon pushed past Dojin, his medical bag in hand. Nurse Laurent. Good. I need your help. They worked in sync, checking vitals, starting in 4, assessing the damage. Miho's injuries were extensive but not immediately life-threatening. Someone had beaten him professionally. Enough to send a message, not enough to kill. Who did this? Dojin's voice was flat, emotionless. The voice that meant someone was about to die. Park's crew, Miho managed through split lips. 8 of them. They were waiting, he coughed, winced. They knew where I'd be. Someone told them. Names. Not a request. A command. I got 3 of them. Miho's good, I found his brother. Your boys have them. Waiting for you. Something dangerous flickered across Dojin's face. Where? The warehouse. Yongsan. Dojin was already moving toward the door when Gemma caught his arm. Wait. You can't just. Yes, I can. He pulled free gently but firmly. Stay here. Help Dr. Yoon. I'll be back. Dojin. Stay. Here. He kissed her forehead. and she felt him trembling with barely contained rage. Please, Gemma. Don't follow me. Not this time. He left before she could argue, taking most of his men with him. Gemma stood there, her hands shaking, finally understanding what was about to happen. He was going to torture them. Maybe kill them. And she was supposed to just wait here and pretend she didn't know. You should listen to him, Dr. Yoon said quietly, wrapping Miho's ribs. What he's about to do, it's not for people like you to see. People like me? Good people. Dr. Yoon's smile was sad. People who still believe the world is fair. Gemma looked at Miho, beaten bloody, in pain because of his brother's world. Then she thought about Dojin, consumed by rage, about to do terrible things. She should stay. Should be smart. Instead, she grabbed her purse. I need to go. Nurse Laurent. Take care of Miho. She was already moving. I'll be back. She caught one of Dojin's drivers in the parking lot. A young guy who looked nervous when she demanded he take her to the Yongsan warehouse. Boss said you stay at hospital. And I'm saying take me there. Now. Or I'll find it myself and he'll blame you for not stopping me. The driver folded. 20 minutes later, Gemma stood outside a decrepit warehouse in an industrial area that looked abandoned. 3 black SUVs were parked outside. She could hear voices inside, Korean, sharp and commanding. Dojin's voice. She pushed through the door before she could lose her nerve. The scene that greeted her would haunt her forever. 3 men were tied to chairs in the center of the warehouse, bloodied, terrified, sobbing. Dojin stood in front of them in his expensive suit, his sleeves rolled up, his knuckles already split and bleeding. And his face was completely empty. I asked you a question, he said in English. For her benefit, she realized with horror. He'd known she was there the second she walked in. Who gave you Miho's location? Please, one of them begged. Please, we don't know. Dojin hit him. Fast, präzise, brutal. The sound of bone breaking echoed through the warehouse. Gemma's hand flew to her mouth, while rising in her throat. Wrong answer. Dojin's voice was conversational, like he was discussing the weather. Let's try again. Who gave you the information? Park Min-suk. Another one screamed. Park Min-suk set it up. He has someone inside. We don't know who, please. Better. Dojin turned to one of his men, said something in Korean. Then he looked directly at Gemma. His eyes were black. Empty. This wasn't the man who held her at night, who cooked for her, who whispered promises against her skin. This was a monster. You shouldn't be here, he said. I know. Her voice came out strangled. You should leave. Right now. Go back to the hospital. Pretend you never saw this. She should have. Every cell in her body screamed at her to run. But her feet wouldn't move. Dojin studied her for a long moment. Then he turned back to the men. Since you're staying, his voice went colder. You should understand what happens to people who touch what's mine. What followed was systematic, methodical, horrifying. Dojin didn't torture them in rage. He did it with precision, extracting information, making examples, ensuring they understood their mistake before he allowed them to pass out from pain. Gemma watched, frozen, as the man she loved became something unrecognizable. She heard screaming, heard bones breaking, heard pleas for mercy that went unanswered. And through it all, Dojin's face stayed empty, like he'd left his humanity at the door. When it was finally over, when the men were unconscious or worse, Gemma couldn't tell. Dojin washed his hands at a utility sink, the water running red. Then he walked over to her. I told you not to come, he said quietly. Gemma couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. All she could see was blood. All she could hear was screaming. Gemma. He reached for her face, and she flinched. The hurt that flashed in his eyes was brief but devastating. Don't touch me. Her voice broke. Don't, I can't. You saw what I am. Not a question. What I have to be. You didn't have to. She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting nausea. You didn't have to enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. His jaw tightened. But I won't apologize for it either. They hurt Miho. They would have hurt you next. This is what I do to protect my family. By becoming a monster? Yes. No hesitation. If that's what it takes. Gemma's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the concrete floor, shaking, and Dojin crouched in front of her. I warned you, he said softly. I told you there was no coming back from this. I told you not to follow me. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I know, but I thought I could handle it. I thought knowing what you were was enough, but, she looked at his bloody hands. But seeing it is different. Yes. He didn't try to touch her again. It is. I can't. Her voice broke completely. I can't unsee this. I can't pretend it didn't happen. I know. They sat there in that warehouse, her on the floor trembling, him crouched in front of her covered in evidence of what he'd done. And Gemma felt something fundamental break between them. Take me home, she whispered finally. Please. Just take me home. My home or yours? The question hung between them. Mine, she said, and watched something die in his eyes. He drove her in silence. When they reached her apartment, the one she'd barely seen in weeks, he walked her to her door. Gemma. Don't. She couldn't look at him. Just, I need time. To think. To process what I saw. How much time? I don't know. She saw his hands clench, then deliberately relax. Okay. Take the time you need. But Gemma, his voice cracked slightly. Don't run. Please. Whatever you decide, don't just disappear. I couldn't handle that. She finally looked at him. Even now, covered in blood and violence, he was beautiful. And she loved him. God help her, she still loved him. But love wasn't enough to erase what she'd seen. I won't disappear, she promised. But I need space. Real space. No tracking, no following, no showing up. Can you give me that? She watched him war with himself, every instinct screaming to refuse, to keep her close, to never let her out of his sight. 1 week, he said finally. I'll give you 1 week. Then we talk. Whether you're ready or not. Dojin. 1 week, Gemma. That's all I can promise. Because asking me to let you go completely. His voice broke. That's asking the impossible. He kissed her forehead, gentle, devastating, and left. Gemma stood in her empty apartment, and finally let herself break down completely. She'd seen the monster. And she didn't know if she could love him anyway. Gemma didn't sleep that night. She sat on her couch in the apartment that no longer felt like home and stared at nothing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it. The blood, the empty look in Dojin's eyes, the methodical way he'd broken those men. Her phone sat silent on the coffee table. No calls. No texts. He was keeping his promise. Giving her space. And somehow that made it worse. By morning, she'd made a decision. She pulled out her laptop and started looking at flights to Miami. 2 days later, Mrs. Kim found her in the break room, staring at her untouched coffee. You look terrible, the older woman said bluntly. Thanks. He's worse. Mrs. Kim sat down across from her. Shin Dojin. He came to see Miho this morning. He looks like he hasn't slept in days. Gemma's chest tightened. That's not my problem. Isn't it? Mrs. Kim's voice was gentle. You love him. He loves you. But love isn't always enough, is it? No. Gemma's voice broke. It's not. What will you do? Leave. Go back to Miami. Pretend the last month never happened. Can you? Mrs. Kim asked quietly. Pretend it never happened? Gemma didn't answer. 3 days later, Miho was sitting up when Gemma came to check his vitals. He looked significantly better. The swelling had gone down, the bruises fading to yellow. You're avoiding my brother, he said in English. I'm taking space. Like he agreed. He's falling apart. Miho's good, I studied her. You know that, right? He's barely functioning. Just working and waiting for you to. He stopped. What did you see? At the warehouse. Gemma's hands shook as she checked his blood pressure. You know what I saw. I know what he does. But I'm asking what you saw. A monster. The word came out broken. I saw the man I love become a monster. And that's unforgivable? I don't know. She sat down heavily. Those men, they hurt you. They were going to hurt me. I understand why he did it. But understanding doesn't make it okay. Doesn't erase what I saw. No, Miho agreed. But maybe it makes it human. Flawed and violent and wrong, but human. He didn't even hesitate. Would you rather he enjoyed it? Rather he be conflicted while your enemies live to try again? Miho leaned forward despite the pain it caused. My brother is a killer, Seongsingnam. But he's also the most loyal person I know. The most protective. He would burn the world down for the people he loves. And you, his voice softened. You're the only person he's loved since our father died. The only thing that makes him human anymore. So yes, he's a monster. But he's your monster. The question is whether you're brave enough to accept that. Gemma stood abruptly. I need to finish my rounds. He'll wait for you, you know. Miho called after her. Forever if that's what it takes. But you'll destroy him in the process. She left without responding. 5 days later, Nadine's face filled the video call screen, concern written all over it. You look like death, her sister said bluntly. I feel like it. Tell me what happened. So Gemma did. She told Nadine everything. The obsession, the control, the tracking bracelet, the warehouse, the blood. Her sister listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to concern to something that looked almost like understanding. So what are you going to do? Nadine asked when Gemma finally finished. Come home. Back to Miami. Start over. Can you? What? Start over. Just walk away from him like he never happened. Nadine leaned closer to the camera. Gem, I've never heard you talk about anyone the way you talk about him. Even when you're describing the terrible things he's done, she paused. There's love there. Real love. The kind that doesn't just disappear because it gets hard. He tortured people, Nadine. I know. And that's horrifying. But, Nadine took a breath. Do you think he'd stop? If you asked him to give up his world, walk away from his organization, become someone else, do you think he would? No, Gemma said immediately. That's who he is. That's his family, his responsibility. He can't just. Then the question isn't whether you can change him. Nadine's voice was gentle. It's whether you can love him anyway. As he is. Monster and all. I don't know if I can. Then you need to figure that out. Before you run. Because running is easy, Gem. You've done it before. From Michael, from Mom's expectations, from everything hard in your life. But this, she gestured at the screen. This feels different. This feels like running might actually break you. After they hung up, Gemma sat in the quiet, and tried to imagine her life without Dojin. No more waking up to his possessive hold. No more texts throughout the day. No more coming home to him cooking dinner, looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. No more feeling safe despite the danger. No more feeling claimed. No more feeling loved so completely it terrified her. The thought made her chest ache. But then she remembered the blood. The screaming. The empty look in his eyes. Could she live with that? Could she be with someone capable of such violence? She didn't know. Day 6. Gemma was packing when someone knocked on her door. She opened it to find Dojin standing there, and her breath caught. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw. His expensive suit rumpled like he'd slept in it. His hands were shoved in his pockets and he looked broken. I know I said a week, he said quietly. But I can't. I needed to see you. To know you're okay. I've fine. You're lying. He didn't try to come inside, just stood in the hallway looking at her like she was something precious he'd lost. I can see it, Gemma. You're not fine. Neither am I. What do you want me to say? I want you to say you're not leaving. His voice cracked. I want you to say that what you saw, what I am, isn't enough to make you walk away. But I know. He stopped, jaw clenching. I know that's not fair. I know what I'm asking is impossible. Then why are you here? Because I'm selfish. He finally met her eyes. Because I love you so much it's destroying me. Because the thought of you getting on a plane and disappearing from my life makes me want to burn the world down. And I know that's not healthy. I know I should let you go. Should want what's best for you even if it kills me. But I can't, Gemma. I can't let you go without fighting for you. I saw you torture people, she whispered. I watched you break them, and you didn't even flinch. I know. How am I supposed to love someone capable of that? I don't know. His hands clenched in his pockets. But you did. Before you saw it. You loved me knowing what I was, what I'd done. The only thing that changed is now you have proof. Now it's real instead of abstract. That's not. Yes, it is. He took a step closer, and she didn't back away. I'm the same person who cooked you breakfast. The same person who held you at night. The same person who would die for you without hesitation. The violence is part of me, but it's not all of me. And you know that, Gemma. You know me. Doi. Tears burned her eyes. Because the man in that warehouse, I didn't recognize him. Yes, you did. His voice was rough. That's what scares you. You recognized exactly who I was, and you still love me. And that terrifies you because it means you're capable of loving a monster. He was right. God, he was right. I can't. Her voice broke. I can't do this, Dojin. I can't be with someone who. Then don't. He pulled something from his pocket, a plane ticket. I bought this for you. First class to Miami. Tomorrow morning. If you want to leave, if you can't handle what I am, then go. I won't stop you. I won't follow you. I'll let you walk away and I'll live with it because I love you enough to want you to be happy, even if it's not with me. He held out the ticket, and Gemma stared at it like it was a bomb. But before you take it, he continued, his voice shaking now, I need you to know something. I will never stop loving you. I will never stop wanting you. And if you ever decide you can accept what I am, I'll be here, waiting, for however long it takes. Gemma took the ticket with trembling hands. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, but I can't. I need to go. I need to think, to breathe, to figure out who I am without you consuming every thought. She watched something die in his eyes. Okay. He stepped back. Okay, Sarang. Go. Be safe. Be happy. His voice cracked completely. Be everything I can't give you. He turned to leave, and Gemma almost called him back. But she didn't. She watched him walk away. And then she closed her door and let herself break down completely. 6 weeks later, Miami. Gemma stared at the positive pregnancy test in her hand and felt her world tilt. Pregnant. With Shin Dojin's baby. She'd been in Miami for over a month, living with Nadine, trying to rebuild her life. She'd applied for positions at local hospitals, reconnected with old friends, pretended she was moving on. But every night, she dreamed of him. Every morning, she woke up reaching for someone who wasn't there. And now this. Her phone sat on the bathroom counter. His contact still there, still labeled just Dojin with a dragon emoji she'd added one night when he'd made her laugh. She could call him. Should call him. He deserved to know. But then what? Go back to Seoul? Raise a child in his world of violence and blood? Or stay here, raise the baby alone, and rob him of his child? Both options felt impossible. Gemma looked at herself in the mirror. Pale, exhausted, carrying the child of a man she'd run from. A man she still loved desperately. What am I going to do? She whispered to her reflection. Her reflection had no answers. But the pregnancy test in her hand was proof that running hadn't solved anything. It had only made everything more complicated. For months later, present day, Gemma woke to darkness and the weight of someone's stare. Her eyes adjusted slowly, finding Shin Dojin at the foot of the bed, backlit by Seoul's glittering skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. He stood perfectly still in expensive slacks and an unbuttoned dress shirt, tattoos snaking up his forearms in the dim light. Something was wrong. His jaw was locked tight, and he held his phone like a weapon. Dojin. Her voice came out rough with sleep. She sat up carefully, one hand instinctively moving to her belly. For months pregnant now, visibly showing. What time is it? Who the fuck is Joseph? The question landed like a physical blow. Gemma's mind raced, still foggy with sleep. What? Don't. He took a step closer, and she saw it then. The barely leashed fury in his dark eyes, the muscle ticking in his jaw, the white-knuckle grip on his phone. Don't play games with me, Gemma. Not about this. Her heart kicked against her ribs. I don't know what you're. He tapped his screen. Her own voice filled the room, sleep soft and tender. Joseph, please. I just want to hold you. Oh God. Heat flooded her face. Not embarrassment, but understanding mixed with anger. You recorded me sleeping? She threw off the covers, struggling to her feet despite her belly. After everything, after I came back, you're still. Answer the fucking question. His voice dropped to something deadly quiet. Who is he? This was it. The jealousy, the possessiveness, the obsession that had driven her away once before. It was all still there, barely contained beneath the surface. And she'd come back anyway. Gemma had returned to Seoul 3 weeks ago. Not because Dojin had found her, though she knew he could have. Not because she'd forgiven what she'd seen in that warehouse. But because Nadine had been right. Running hadn't solved anything. She'd shown up at his penthouse, for months pregnant and terrified, and told him everything. About the baby. About leaving. About loving him despite the monster she'd seen. He dropped to his knees and sobbed. They'd spent 3 weeks rebuilding, carefully, painfully. He'd promised to trust her, to give her space to be better. And now this. You promised, she said, her voice shaking. You promised you'd trust me. That you wouldn't. I can't. His control cracked, just slightly. He moved closer, and she saw the desperation beneath the rage. I can't just turn it off, Gemma. The fear that you'll leave again, that you'll find someone better, someone who doesn't have blood on his hands. Stop. She held up a hand. Just stop and listen to me. Tell me who he is first. He's yours. The words exploded out of her. Joseph is your son, you paranoid psychopath. Our baby. The one I'm carrying right now. The phone slipped from his fingers, hitting the floor with a crack. Silence. Dojin stared at her, his face going through a series of emotions too fast to name. Shock, confusion, realization, devastation. What? His voice was barely a whisper. I had an ultrasound yesterday. Her hands moved to her belly protectively. They confirmed it's a boy. I've been thinking about names, and my grandfather who raised me, his name was Joseph Laurent. I was dreaming about holding our son, about what we'd call him, and you thought. Her voice broke. You thought I was dreaming about another man. She watched him crumble. His knees actually buckled. He caught himself on the edge of the bed, but just barely, and the devastation on his face was complete. A son, he breathed. We're having a son. Yes. Tears streamed down her face now. Anger, relief, exhaustion, all of it pouring out. And you just threatened to hunt him down. To destroy the life I was dreaming about giving him. Because you can't, you won't, trust me. Gemma. He reached for her and she stepped back. No. Her voice was firm despite the tears. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is why I left. Because I knew that even if I came back, even if I chose you, you'd still be this. Jealous, possessive, unable to believe that I'm here because I want to be. I'm sorry. He looked shattered. God, Gemma, I'm so sorry. When I heard you say his name like that, you assumed the worst. She wrapped her arms around herself. Like you always do. Like you always will. No. He stood, and she saw him visibly pull himself together. No, I can learn. I can be better. Please just, his voice cracked. Don't leave again. I can't. I won't survive it this time. I don't want to leave. The admission cost her. But I can't live like this either. I can't wake up every day wondering if you're going to spiral over something innocent. I can't raise our son in an environment where his father doesn't trust his mother. I trust you. You don't. She shook her head. You want to, but you don't. And maybe you can't. Maybe what you've lived through, what you've lost, maybe it broke something in you that can't be fixed. Then help me fix it. He closed the distance between them, dropped to his knees in front of her. His hands hovered near her belly but didn't touch. Please, Gemma. Help me be the man you need. The father our son deserves. I'll do anything. Therapy, medication, whatever it takes. Just don't give up on me. She looked down at him, this powerful, dangerous man on his knees, begging her for a chance to be better. I need you to make me a promise, she said quietly. Anything. No more surveillance. No recording me, no tracking my phone, no having your men follow me. If you can't trust me without proof, then this won't work. She watched him struggle, every instinct screaming against it. What if something happens to you? His voice was raw. What if someone? Then you deal with it when it happens. But you can't live your life, our life, in constant fear. You have to choose trust over control. Can you do that? I don't know. At least he was honest. But I'll try. Every day I'll try. That's all I'm asking. She touched his face, and he leaned into her palm like he was starving for gentle touch. Try. For me. For Joseph. Joseph Laurent Shin, he said softly, testing the name. Our son. Our son. She pulled him up, and he came willingly, his arms wrapping carefully around her. The baby I was dreaming about holding. Not some other man. Just him. Just our family. He buried his face in her hair, and she felt him shaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I almost destroyed us again over nothing. I know. She held him tighter. But you didn't. We're still here. We still have a chance. They stood there in the pre-dawn light, holding each other, their son between them, and Gemma felt something shift. This wouldn't be easy. Loving Shin Dojin would always be complicated, dangerous, terrifying. But it would also be real, raw, worth fighting for. Marry me, he said against her hair. You've asked me that before. And you said you'd think about it. He pulled back to look at her. But I'm asking again. Properly this time. Not because I'm trying to lock you down or control you. Because I want to make a promise. In front of everyone, legally, permanently. I want to promise that I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of you. Dojin. Let me finish. His hands moved to her belly, gentle and reverent. I want our son to have parents who chose each other. Who fought for each other. Who looked at all the reasons it shouldn't work and said fuck it, we're doing it anyway. Despite everything, Gemma laughed. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is it working? She looked at him, really looked. At the man who'd stalked her, claimed her, consumed her. Who'd shown her violence and passion and obsessive love. Who was trying, despite everything, to be better. Ask me properly, she said. On your knees. Like I have a choice. Understanding flickered in his eyes. She was giving him a chance to do this right. To make it her decision, not his demand. He dropped to one knee for the second time that night. Gemma Laurent. His voice was steady now, clear. I'm not a good man. I'm violent, possessive, broken in ways I might never fully fix. I will always struggle to trust, to let go, to believe I deserve you. But I will also love you until my last breath. I will protect you and our son with everything I have. I will try, every single day, to be the man you need me to be. He took her hand. Marry me. Choose me. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that coming back was the right decision. Tears streamed down Gemma's face. This was real. Flawed, dangerous, imperfect, but real. Yes, she whispered. I'll marry you. His smile was brilliant, devastating. He stood, pulled her into his arms, kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. Thank you, he whispered. For coming back. For giving me another chance. For loving me even when I don't deserve it. You're welcome. She touched his face. Now take the surveillance system out of this bedroom. All of it. Today. He laughed, actually laughed. Yes, Sarang. Whatever you want. 1 week later. The wedding was small, intimate, just family and the people who mattered most. Nadine had flown in from Miami, initially furious that Gemma had gone back to Seoul but softening when she saw them together. Mrs. Choi catered, creating dishes that blended Korean and Caribbean flavors. Miho stood as best man, fully healed now, looking amused by the whole thing. And Dojin stood in the courtyard of the family house in traditional wedding attire, looking at Gemma like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. The ceremony was conducted in both Korean and English. When it came time for vows, Dojin spoke first. Gemma, I can't promise I'll be perfect. I can't promise I'll never struggle with jealousy or fear, or the need to protect you from everything. But I can promise this. I will choose you. Every day. Over fear, over control, over everything. I will try to be better. I will love our son. And I will love you. Exactly as you are, for the rest of my life. Gemma's vows were simpler. Dojin, you're dangerous and possessive and you drive me crazy. But you're also honest and loyal and you love me like I'm the only thing that matters. I choose you. I choose this life, this family, this love. Monster and all. When they were pronounced married, when Dojin kissed her in front of everyone, Gemma heard Nadine whisper to Miho, is this actually happening? Is my sister really marrying a crime lord? Miho's response was quiet but clear. She's marrying a man who would burn the world down for her. Everything else is just details. That night, they lay in bed in the master bedroom of the Shin family house, officially Gemma's home now. Dojin's hand rested on her belly, feeling Joseph move beneath his palm. He's active tonight, he murmured. He's always active. She covered his hand with hers. I think he's going to be just like you. Restless, intense, unable to sit still. God help us both if that's true. But he was smiling. Joseph Laurent Shin. Our son. Our family. Our family, she echoed. Are you happy? He asked quietly. Gemma thought about everything that had brought them here. The obsession, the violence, the running, the return. The choice she'd made to love him anyway. Yes, she said. Terrified but happy. Good. His arms tightened around her. Because you're stuck with me now. Forever. Forever, she agreed. And lying there in the darkness, feeling their sun move between them, Gemma understood something fundamental about love and danger, and the choices that define us. She'd married a killer. A possessive, jealous, dangerous man who would always struggle with control. But he was her killer. Her monster. Her choice. And in Shin Dojin's world, in their world now, that was the safest place she could possibly be. If Gemma and Dojin's story pulled you in, if you felt every moment of their dangerous, obsessive love, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Could you love someone like Dojin? Would you have stayed or run? And if you want more dark Afro-Korean romance stories that don't hold back, subscribe because I'm just getting started.